Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for y'all. So today we're going to be taking a look at Branded Despia. More specifically though, we're going to be taking a look at our post-ban list build. Now, at the time of recording this, we still have a week until the ban list drops, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to see just how this deck will perform with only 2 Aluber as opposed to 3. This is the second slight consistency hit that we've seen to this deck here. The other, of course, being when Branded opening went to 2 copies. And I think for a game like Master Duel, these semi-limits to these consistency cards, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think in the long term, especially in a best-of-1 format, here on Master Duel, we're gonna see we're gonna see that kind of like balance out, right? Those number of games that Branded Despia, even though they're not that much fewer, those fewer games that Branded Despia is gonna open Aluber into Branded Fusion will, over the broad course of the deck playing out through the meta, result in less Branded Fusions being resolved. I like this better than something, I mentioned this in another video, but I like this better than like putting Branded Fusion to 1 like they did in the OCG, because, you know, if you negate the 1 Branded Fusion, if it doesn't resolve, then your deck, like this deck is done. Like it doesn't have any more plays after that. And all it really takes is a single Ash Blossom, as we all know, to stop the Branded Fusion here. So I like this hit a lot more. It definitely hurts the deck without outright killing it. As far as how the build itself has changed, we actually covered this in yesterday's video. If you want to see the changes not only to this deck, but also some of the other decks that were affected by the ban list, feel free to check that out. But as far as Branded Despia specifically, we've obviously dropped the 3rd Aluber, and we've included the Allure of Darknesses. This is a card that I've played in the past, and it's not even that I was dissatisfied with it. It just often, I didn't have enough room in the deck for it to make the final cut, right? But now that Aluber is down to 2, I decided to take out the Braided Lost and Tri-Brigade Mercurier, as well as, of course, the 3rd Aluber, and then try this package of 3 Allure of Darkness. I like this better than like something like Spring-Ann's Kit or Gold Sarcophagus. I've seen a lot of people say that they're just going to jam in one of those 2 cards instead of, you know, playing the... instead of playing the 3rd Aluber there. But I like the Allure a lot more because I think it accomplishes what those cards are trying to do, but with less of a hit to consistency or advantage, right? Spring-Ann's Kit, for example. Spring-Ann's Kit is, you know, obviously it's a fairly solid replacement for Aluber. For those who don't know, it's literally like pretty much the same thing as Aluber, except you have to, the thing is you have to place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Like, yeah, you can normal summon it or special summon it and grab the Branded Fusion, but that hidden advantage actually matters a lot, like a lot to Branded Despia. It might not seem like that big of a deal, especially because you might think like, oh, we'll use Branded Opening, right? But Branded Opening is different because it discards a card, and it that is like so much better than putting a card on the bottom of the deck, especially for this deck. Branded Opening can potentially discard like a Despian Tragedy to get a search. It can potentially throw out like, I mean, that's really honestly about the best thing it could throw out, except maybe like Fairy Tale Snow, but that's still better than putting a card on bottom of the deck. And I mean, you know, anything you throw out can be gotten back with like Branded in Red or something like that, or, you know, potentially used for like Albion for another fusion like later in the game. But yeah, it's really the advantage loss is the main thing. I just don't, it's not that I don't think it's worth it at all, but I think we have better options. There's also Gold Sarcophagus is what I was gonna say, which again, you know, people have kind of been talking about using as like a second Foolish Burial for Despian Tragedy. That I might be a little more inclined to try if I already had a copy crafted, but the thing I don't like about the idea of Gold Sarcophagus, and to be fair, Foolish Burial kind of shares this weakness of, like, it's not really great except for turn 1 to exactly send Despian Tragedy to exactly search Aluber. I don't want to be top decking this card late in the game. With Foolish Burial, at the very least, if I top deck it, there are other functions of it, like, again, potentially getting something back with Branded in Red or something like that, but Gold Sarcophagus exists purely and solely to banish the Despian Tragedy on turn 1 to search the Aluber, which I don't like playing cards that really only have one function like that. Allure of Darkness is great because it's not only card draw, which will help us filter and get to the Aluber more consistently on turn 1, but even if we don't, we can just banish the Despian Tragedy and then use that to search for Aluber. Now, granted, banishing the Despian Tragedy off Allure, that means you have to have it in hand as opposed to Gold Sarc where you can just have it in your deck, but it's card advantage overall. When you banish Allure off of the Despian Tragedy, you get a +1 off that. And on top of that, it's also really good filtering which can not only help you find Aluber, but you might just hard draw into the Branded Fusion. You might hard draw into like something else that's really good, like maybe a Frightfur Patchwork. It just offers a lot more options than I think Spring Kit or Gold Sark are able to. So I'm going to be trying these out, and I've already played quite a few games with this exact build, again, even though we aren't in the actual post-banlist phase of the meta yet. So we're going to be taking a look at those here in just a moment. Extra deck hasn't really changed. I debated potentially taking out Alba-Lenatus for the Despian Proscinian, as I often do, but what the tiebreaker for me is honestly this second effect here, the Graveyard effect. Having another way to add the Branded Fusion off of the Sins for the Mirrorjade is really nice, because I have had games actually where, you know, it's a little bit grindier and I actually run out of Albions to send off of Mirrorjade. But, you know, the Alba-Lenatus, we can add not just the Branded Fusion, but potentially Polymerization as well. Apologies about that. I am in the last stages of recovering from being sick, so thank you for being patient with me throughout this last week as I've been recording anyway, despite maybe that not being the best idea. But, I don't know. It didn't really seem to affect my health adversely at all. Anyway, I think that's about all I've got to say about this build. Branded Banishment has continued being excellent. I foresee it being pretty much a staple in this deck moving forward. I really like having it. It's very, very good in the grind game. And let's see. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. The build overall hasn't changed too much, but definitely Aluber going from 3 to 2 is a hit that will be felt, but one that we can hopefully circumvent with Allure. So let's go ahead and break this build down card by card, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay. We're playing 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Despain Tragedy, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Edge Imp Chain, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Aluber the Jester of Despia, 1 Ad Libitum of Despia, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Polymerization, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Allure of Darkness, 2 Frightfur Patchwork, 3 Branded Fusion, 2 Super Polymerization, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Desginator, 2 Branded Opening, 2 Branded in Red, 1 Infinite Impermanence, and then 1 Branded Banishment. Extra deck is going to have 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 1 Predaplant Dragostepelia, 1 Titanklad the Ash Dragon, 2 Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 Despian Quaretits, 2 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon, 2 Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon, 2 Lubellion the Searing Dragon, 1 Alba-Lenatus the Abyss Dragon, and then finally 2 Guardian Chimera. That's going to round out the list there. Now let's go and take a look at some games. So our first duel here is going to be a mirror match, and this was a pretty intense game from what I remember. This definitely came down to the wire here. Notice they were playing an adventure package too, but I don't remember that actually coming up during the duel. So anyway, taking a look at our opening hand here, we definitely see the Allure plus Despain Tragedy, so that's good. We also opened the Branded Fusion anyway, so we definitely have our fair share of options that, combined with Fallen of Albaz rather, while going second, we're definitely going to have a decent amount of plays going into our opponent's turn here. You know, it's pretty obvious right off the bat that we're playing the mirror match. Looks like they got a fairly standard opening, using the Branded opening to set another copy of itself to go for their standard opening line. Here we see they throw out the Fateful Adventure. I don't remember noticing this like in the middle of the game, so yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't actually get any of the Adventure Engine online here. They do, however, get the Mirrorjade, and they'll set 2 before passing, so that kind of tells me that one of these face-down cards is already branded in red. If the Despia player is going to be setting 2 cards going into my turn, excuse me, they're probably going to be having a branded red. Especially, the main thing that's getting that away to me, though, is the fact that they didn't banish this Aluber. They want to save this Mirrorjade banish for my turn, because, again, they've already got the branded red, so they don't need to waste the banish by setting it up here. So definitely have to be mindful of that. This Branded Banishment is a fantastic draw, by the way, for this matchup, because I was probably going to end up searching it, since I already have the Branded Fusion. But now I can potentially get the Branded in red instead. But I actually decided to go for Ad Libitum instead of the Aluber here, because I plan on normal summoning the Fallen of Albaz as a last-ditch means to remove that Mirrorjade if I have to resort to that. But yeah, these first plays here, I'm really just kind of testing the waters and seeing what kind of a response my opponent has, and if they're willing to use any of them. Basically, if I'm playing into a lot of disruption, like I am right now, like multiple back row and the Mirrorjade, then my first few plays are almost always going to be like trying to bait out these responses from my opponent, where I'm trying to like make plays that are impactful enough that they'll, 1, force a response from my opponent, and 2, be good enough if the play actually resolves. This Mirrorjade banish was really good on my opponent's part, by the way. hitting the Lubellion here. Because I was going to go for a Titanklad, which definitely would have messed my opponent up here, but I kind of have to pivot and go for something. Well, I guess I could have gone for Titanklad still. Right? Couldn't have I fused with Ad Libitum? Is that not enough of a level? No, 2,500 or more attack. I thought it was level 8 or higher. That's the Tri-Brigade one. That's level 8 or higher monster. Which is weird because Tri-Brigades don't have a level 8 or higher monster in their archetype. But anyway. Yeah, the opponent's going to get their Mirrorjade's effect during the end phase, so I'm going to try to see if I can go for lethal here, but no, the opponent still has that face-down card, which I suspected to be branded in red, and it in fact is. If you're wondering why the Lubellion can attack, by the way, it's because its effect got negated, so... Yeah, like I said, tried to go for lethal here, but no luck. I actually should have attacked with the Mirrorjade first, since I thought the face-down was probably going to be branded in red. That definitely would have been smarter, because then I could have just continued the attack. Basically, it's going to be the difference of me missing out on 2,500 damage here, which is a huge difference, you know, definitely. I would much prefer my opponent be at 1,200 life points instead of 3,700, but... Oh yeah, ignore this fusion, by the way. This is just a waste of a polymerization. For some reason, I thought I was able to fuse Titanklad. Because my brain was like, oh, finally I have a monster with 2,500 more attack. But then I was like, well, no, wait, now you're missing the Fallen of Albaz, so... That poly was just a brain fart on my part. Don't mind it, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, we lost out on a polymerization, but there's not really a whole lot poly by itself was going to do in this board state anyway. Yeah, so they get to go for another round of branded fusions. I'm not really super worried though, because again, I've got the Branded Banishment face down. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to wait for them to use as many resources as possible before I just straight up like steal their monster, basically. Or their monsters. I'm trying to remember why I activated Masquerade's effect here. Because once this Mirrorjade leaves the field, I'm going to lose all my monsters anyway. So, yeah, I definitely shouldn't have activated that Mirrorjade effect. Or not that Mirrorjade effect, the, what is it called? The Masquerade effect. Yeah, no, I shouldn't have activated that there. Not that, again, it wouldn't have super duper mattered because I wouldn't have been able to summon it, you know, it's not like I would have been able to summon it anyway because my opponent doesn't have an extract monster in play, but that doesn't mean it was correct to summon it here. Although I guess to be fair, I can just like banish this Masquerade for the Mirrorjade effect, but I could have done that with, you know, either of those other monsters anyway, so. Opponents didn't gonna set their own Branded Banishment, so I definitely have to be weary of that. Now here I get to add the Branded Fusion, but I actually don't have a means of activating it because both of my Alubers are already in my graveyard, so I'm going to have to add my Branded, or I'll have to use the Branded Red to add the Aluber back. I also definitely want to use the Despain Tragedy to recycle this Branded Banishment. If nothing else, I will still be able to get my Mirrorjade back with it, but obviously in a better case scenario, I'm just going to be able to fuse two of my opponent's monsters and try to go for lethal that way, so... Yeah, I'm going to go for a Titanklad just to bait out my opponent's Branded Banishment. I obviously know they've got it and they plan on using it, so... I say let's just get it out of the way here. I definitely should have fired off this Maxx. I don't know, there's something about this game. I just wasn't, like, super on top of it, I guess, for some reason. But yeah, I definitely should have fired off that Maxx in response. But again, these are all, like, relatively minor misplays. I don't think they hugely affect the course of the game. Like... Having the polymerization in hand, I guess to be fair, having the Masquerade engraved here might have mattered a little bit. Excuse me, but not really, as Branded Banishment bringing back the Mirrorjade is going to be enough in order to, you know, stop my opponent from attacking me. Yeah, sending Alba-Lenatus for the Branded Fusion here, but as I mentioned before, we don't have any Albazes left in our deck, so this Branded Fusion doesn't really do a whole lot. Yeah, here I decided to summon Maxx to help like get some damage in because I'm at 6,800. I don't hugely anticipate that we're going to lose this duel at this point. My opponent's only at 200 life points, and this could matter. Like, there could be a board state where my opponent is able to answer my board, but not have a board of their own, or I can answer their monsters and then just normal summon this last Maxx for lethal. But they just end up conceding after I Maxx the Branded in red there, so... yeah, definitely a huge back and forth with the mirror match there, which, again, had a couple of minor misplays, but none that hugely affected the course of the duel. So there is that game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This duel is going to be against Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc, and interestingly, I was looking at their list, and they're teching Arch Nemesis Protoss, which is like, huh, that's an interesting tech for Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. I mean, they've got different attributes. They've got the Wind Birds, Kit's Fire, Fractal is Earth, you know, so, well, I can see it. Anyway, this time we're going to go first. Looks like we opened a branded opening, so we're going to get to Aluber that way, searching up the branded in red. Yeah, definitely throwing out the branded, or searching up the branded fusion, rather. I'm throwing out the branded in red with the Alubers, or with the, can't get my name straight. Discarding branded in red with branded opening to search Aluber. There we go. We also have to discard the Imperm with Lubellion. Neither are definitely ideal here. See, this is kind of one of those things where, like, this hand is kind of a good example of why I'm not a huge fan of the idea of just adding Springen's Kit. Because sometimes you have, you know, hands like this where you have to use branded opening, but you kind of awkwardly don't really want to get rid of anything in your hand, but you have to make plays. I don't know, I just don't want that happening more often. I feel like, you know, with Springen's Kit, that is going to happen more often, but with Allure, maybe that'll happen a little bit less often than it normally would. Who knows? So the opponent's going to start off with a Tenki. I, of course, let the Tenki resolve, but, well, I don't have to Ash the Fractal here. I can just actually use a Called by the Grave. But the opponent has a Crossout Desginator, so, it's not that big of a deal, though. I'll get a chance to Ash Blossom later in this turn. Really, no matter what variant of Tri-Brigade it is, like, I'll have another chance to Ash Blossom them. Like, even if it's as simple as ashing the Kit, which I think I actually do end up doing here. Yep. Because I don't want them to add or send Nerval. Like, I could wait for Nerval and then hit the Surge, but I also want to limit the number of Tri-types in their graveyard. And the difference between having 2 and 3 Tri-types in grave is huge for Tri-Brigade. Trust me, I have much experience in that. I can say that with much certainty here. So, yeah, as the opponent summons this Chaos, I'm just going to go for a Guardian Chimera to get rid of it. Basically, my goal now is to keep their Tri-Brigade monsters just off the board in general. And I'll be able to blow up their Chaos here, and then, of course, I can still get back my Mirrorjade in order to banish whatever else they end up throwing down, so. Because they do still have a normal summon here. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay, they just conceded at that point. Yeah, so that's a pretty standard, like, you know, that's a pretty standard / ideal opening from Branded Despia, right? It's a very simple turn 1 line into the, you know, Mirrorjade, and then from there is the Guardian Chimera, so pretty easy peasy there. I kind of thought, I think I had another game against Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc I was thinking of that I thought was this one. That was a little more back and forth, but that's pretty, I mean, this just goes to show, though, like, how you don't necessarily need floodgates or, like, you know, a huge boss monster that has Omni Negates in order to be, like, a dominant tier 1 deck. As long as you've got the disruption and the advantage to fuel that disruption to, like, totally pick apart your opponent's play, like, you can just kind of do it, quote-unquote, manually that way, too. Alright, yeah, let's just go ahead and jump straight into the next game here. Alright, here we have a game against Runic, so, and this one's going to be an invoked Runic, but I did still see some amount of floodgates, like I saw a summon limit. I didn't see like there can only be 1 or anything, but... Let's see, we're going to be taking the first turn here. Our opening hand is like, it's pretty meh, honestly. Well, okay, it's actually not that meh. We do have branded openings, so we have like the standard opening line, plus Maxx plus Ash Blossom. That's a pretty good hand, but against Runic, this hand is kind of meh. The Ash Blossom is really good. The Maxx probably isn't going to end up doing too much in this matchup, but even the invoked variant, the Maxx, typically doesn't end up doing too much here. Yeah, like, right now I'm just doing pretty standard stuff as far as, like, Despia opening plays go. Gonna set up the Mirrorjade, use it to banish the Aluber, and then use that to set up the Branded Red. I mean, if you've played any amount of, like, Platinum or Diamond Ladder in Master Duel, you've seen this line before. Hell, if you watched the last game, you saw this line before, so. Alright, we're all nice and set up for our opponent's turn here. They're going to lead with the Terraforming, and I kind of suspected it was probably going to be Runic's. So, usually, like, in the past, I've actually Ash Blossomed Terraforming, in case I was playing against Nubron, and this was, like, the only way they could search up the network, but nowadays, with Runic being so prominent, I don't really tend to Ash Blossom Terraformings anymore. I would much rather wait until I can Ash Blossom the Runic Monsters effect. And yes, that does, you know, in the rare instance you are up against Nubron, and they had exactly only Terraforming to search Nubron network, like, Yeah, that does kind of make you lose those games sometimes, but that's such a niche matchup compared to Runic, which is everywhere, so. Here, however, when the opponent activates Alistair's effect, I'm actually going to Ash Blossom this. I'm actually going to do that because I've got the Branded and Red face down. So if my opponent tries to activate a Runic Fountain, like they are going to do right now, like I knew they were going to do because of Terraforming, I still have a means of answering it, and that's going to be the Branded and Red here. I can go into a Guardian Chimera, and then I can just use that to pop the Runic Fountain before they can even have a chance really to resolve it. Because even if they chain a quick play spell card to the Branded and Red, actually, no. Now that I think about it, if they chained a quick play spell card to the Branded Red, I think they might have gotten one draw off of Runic Fountain. Because both Guardian Chimera and Runic Fountain's effects would have resolved after the chain link. This is too late. Using it during... No, wait, maybe it's not, though, because it is on the same chain link. Oh, God, this play. Yeah, that's right. I thought they were using the effect to negate my Guardian Chimera's effect. Like, I didn't even read that they were summoning Hugin here. I just thought they were negating my monster's effect, although I guess they couldn't because... Oh wait, no, I don't have Polymerization in my graveyard. Huh, yeah, I don't know why they didn't just negate my monster's effect, to be totally honest. But that's why I banished my own Guardian Chimera there. That looked really, really weird, I'm sure, but the reason was because, again, I thought they were negating my monster's effect, and so I was like, okay, if I banish it with Snow, then it won't be on the field, and then they can't, you know, they can't resolve the effect to negate my Guardian Chimera, but, whatever, they ultimately did anyway, and they're going to get some searches, but it's actually not that big of a deal. Also, I put the Hugin face down, because then that way it won't be able to protect the Runic Fountain with its effect. Not that, I mean, I could just banish it with the Mirrorjade as well, and I'm ultimately, I think, going to end up doing that. Or no, I actually banished the Aluber here, because I was able to put the Hugin face down. But yeah, I'm going to use the Mirrorjade's effect to try to get a search, but the opponent's got a call by. I don't really care, I've already got the Branded Fusion in hand, and my opponent didn't even really end up doing too much with their play. Like, yeah, they get to cycle a Runic Fountain, but, yeah, they've only got 2 cards in hand and 1 card face down, so I'm not super duper concerned here, honestly. Like, even if the face down card was a Floodgate, it would really depend on which Floodgate it is, though, to be fair. Like, if it was Skill Drain, I could play through it pretty reasonably. If it was There Can Only Be One, I could play through it like nothing. This deck actually is, like, not even affected by There Can Only Be One, barely at all. Like, you do have to make some slightly kind of weird plays, but, like, this deck has so many different types in it that I've played under There Can Only Be One and, like, OTK'd my opponent no problem multiple times. Rivalry, obviously, is going to be a much bigger issue for the opposite reason. Well, for the same reason, rather, because this deck uses a high variety of monster types. Rivalry of the Warlords tends to be a bit more impactful of a Floodgate choice there. Alright, dropping a Guardian Chimera number 2 down. Just going to use this to pop my opponent's board. And again, because the Hugin is face down, they can't protect the Runic Fountain with it. So they just concede at that point. I've also got, well, they connect failed, but I suspect they closed the app. I also made sure to put up 2 Masquerades, just in case they somehow manage to live through the turn. The Masquerades are definitely going to be the end of them. That's another way that Branded Despia actually has a pretty solid out against Runics. If you're able to make multiple Masquerades against Runics, then, I mean, they activate 1,000,000 spell cards per turn, so they're really only going to get 1 turn of doing stuff before they just can't play cards anymore. And Runic really does not have a lot of outs, especially if they can't find it in that first burst of cards they play to multiple Masquerades there. So there's that game. We've got 1 more to take a look at. Let's jump straight into it. Alright, our final duel of the video is going to be against Exo Sisters, actually, which I haven't played against too much, a couple of times, but you're playing a Spellbook engine here as well, which I think we're going to prominently see on the first turn or 2, if I recall correctly. So it looks like we're actually taking the first turn. Yeah, this hand's a little bit rough. No way to get to Alba here, but we did at least open Frightfur Patchwork, so we have some amount of options here. I can at the very least poly and drop a Masquerade on my opponent. Like, if nothing else, this is still, you know, at the very least I can tax him a little bit, right? I've also got the Imperm and the Branded Banishment, so, you know, I've got some options here. I'm not like, you know, it's obviously not as great as a turn 1 Branded Despia board would like to put out, but it's not, you know, it's not bad by any means. the opponent's going to activate the spellbook and then set 3 and pass. So at this point, I didn't really have any indication that they were playing Exo Sisters. I was just, you know, thinking primarily it was just going to be like a spellbook deck. Opponent does flip up the Spellbook of Judgment. They searched out the secrets there, so I was like, okay, I guess they're going to be mostly reactionary here. Yeah, I just decided to summon the Edge Imp Chain because I didn't really have anything great to search here. Or to fuse for, rather. Oh no, that's right, Branded Banishment was going to try to go for game. Well, not game here, but I was basically going to try to make another Masquerade and more or less get game. By just having 2 Masquerades on board. But the opponent did have a call by for my target, so that's not going to be quite that easy. Although, to be fair, my opponent still only has, they've only got 3 cards they can play. No, sorry, 4. Before they're out of life points to pay for Masquerade. I cannot do math to save my life. Oh, but that's right, they also have to pay life points for their Exo Sisters effect. That's why, I was like, there's no way they had 4 activations. I remember this duel, but yeah, that's right. I forgot that you have to pay life points for the Exo Sisters effect. And I definitely don't want my opponent to gain life points here, so I'm absolutely going to imperm their Exo Sister Sophia here. Because now they've only got 500 life points and I've got a Masquerade up, which means they can't even attempt to activate any card effects, but they can still Xyz summon. They can go for their boss monster and just crash into my Masquerade, which they end up doing, but that's obviously going to, 1, get me more draws off from Maxx, and 2, cost them a significant bit of advantage as well as just like a general ability to play here. So I'll try to ash the secrets they searched up. They've got a Ciphering Gear Gamma, but I'm not overly concerned. Like the 2 cards this Maxx has drawn me, or the one, I guess, the Despain Tragedy is the one that's currently in hand. Yeah, that plus Allure and Poly, that's all more than enough for me to make comebacks during my turn. Yeah, especially if, like, you know, this card doesn't really do anything. The back row probably doesn't do too much. And yeah, like I said, look at my hand, I've got options for days. So, there is that last duel against Exo Sisters there. That is going to be the last one for this video, so let's go ahead and move now to the outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There, for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.